podcast. My name is Cam. Alright, and to get into it, I know that this is a little bit behind. I've been kind of uh, in a odd situation of whether or not to continue this or not. I appreciate the responses and the followings that I've been getting. It's just, I guess, trying to find time in between things going on in personal life and everything. It's been kind of hard to kind of keep motivated in doing this. I still enjoy the wrestling product. I've still been trying to post a little bit here and there, but if you follow Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, I haven't been as active as lately, and it's just been trying to figure out what I want to do. It's weird because I'm at a crossroads in a sense of whether or not to keep this show going or close it up or add to it. Because one of the things I have kind of played with the idea of is something I enjoy doing is writing. So I thought about writing blog posts and, opinions of what's going on in the wrestling world of sorts. I've also played with the idea of having both this one where I upload weekly as well as one that's more targeted towards normal conversation, something you would expect on a normal morning talk radio show. Excuse me. I've just been kind of going back and forth and kind of feeling undecided what I want to do. To give you a little bit of background, but one of the things I wanted to talk about is AEW Grand Slam. Both nights between Dynamite and Rampage were really, really good. One of the things that I had found is, or at least think, is that the reason that Rampage was 2 hours is because Turner's playing with the idea of moving Rampage to 2 hours completely. If they were to do that, I think the 10 o'clock to midnight slot is probably the worst one they could possibly do. If anything, you either do 7 to 9 or 6 to 8. I think 7 to 9 would probably be better, or 9 to 11. That way they're only competing with SmackDown a little bit, not competing with SmackDown constantly. Because one of the problems that they're going to run into, and this upcoming Rampage is going to be a half-hour overlap between it and SmackDown, because SmackDown is going to 2.5 hours for that show. And I think if you keep trying to fight between SmackDown and AEW Rampage, I don't think it's a good fight to get into. WWE appeals to this word I'm looking for, I don't want to call it mainstream, but appeals to the fan that's not going to really stick around and is not a hardcore fan, whereas AEW mainly appeals to hardcore fans. Not to say that they can't reach them, but AEW is such a new company, only, not even 3 years old at this point, that a lot of people that have been out of the wrestling game for years are familiar with WWE's name, but not familiar with AEW's. So I think a constant head-to-head right now would probably be the worst thing they could do. Now, AEW did compete with more of the hardcore fan-based TV shows and did just fine in the form of NXT. One of the things I keep hearing is that it was his development brand, but the problem was NXT was probably the best show going on when it was competing with AEW. Raw was not that great. SmackDown wasn't that great. NXT was carrying the main wrestling fan base. I would say a hardcore wrestling fan base, but with Ciampa, Gargano, and others. Raw and SmackDown were still keeping the casual fans going, but if you're a hardcore fan, you're digging our NXT. With that said, CM Punk has gone between the long pants and the trunks. I'm not a fan of the long pants. He actually had the long pants on for this past week's Rampage. I'm just not a fan of him. I get it. There's probably very valid reasons why he's sticking with the long boys. I'm just not into it. And I guess it has a lot to do with nostalgia, I became a fan of CM Punk when he had the trunks, but it's just, it's not something I dig. I'd rather keep the trunks going. And with that said, I really would like to see CM Punk go back to the pissed off, chipped on his shoulder CM Punk, because I get it. He is a babyface in the fans in the sense that the fans want to see him. But CM Punk, character-wise, as the babyface that he is, like the I forgot how Taz quoted it, but like the happy tour, it's just not working. It's not seeming, what's the word? It's not real. It doesn't feel real. It feels like it's kind of played up. And I get it. They've been doing this whole thing where CM Punk just cuts a promo for one TV show and then wrestles on another TV show. But people want to hear Punk talk. Let's be real. I know he's done commentary here and there. Of the guys on commentary, I think it's Dark Elevation. But Eddie Kingston's been doing that a little bit more. And I am all for it. I think Eddie Kingston is really entertaining on commentary, and I like to hear him do it more. The other thing that kind of came about is AEW's working with the Owen Hart Foundation, and there has been some negativity. I don't want to say from WWE fans, but negativity in general. Like they're trying to cash in on Owen Hart's name. Let's be honest. It's all going to charity. And I would absolutely call them out if I felt like they were doing this for monetary purposes, something like WWE would do. I don't know if WWE gives money to Connor's cure, like all proceeds to Connor's cure, but I know that they kind of run that into the ground every month, or every time it comes around every year, and that kind of seems like it's done for monetary gain. I can't speak on AEW. I know that they kind of came out and said that all the money is going to the Owen Hart Foundation, but I don't think that this is more than anything other than Tony Khan reaching out to the Harts and trying to extend the olive branch. The other thing is with... So, how do I want to approach this? Dante Martin with AEW, I think, will be a star in the future. There's been a lot of talk about the four pillars of AEW being MJF, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara, but I think Dante Martin is one of those as well. And one of the biggest criticisms that I don't agree that AEW catches slack for is the fact that they use WWE talent to kind of garner attention, champions, and it's like WCW 2.0. I could be very wrong here. I don't think any of their champions are former WWE guys. You have the World Heavyweight Champion being Kenny Omega. You have the TNT Champion being Sammy Guevara. You have the Tag Team Champions being the Lucha Brothers. You have the Women's Champion being Britt Baker. Which one of those is a WWE guy? Granted, the last TNT Champion, or three of the last five, I think it's been 5 champions for TNT, have been WWE guys. You had Cody Rhodes, Brody Lee, and Miro. Those were former WWE guys. With that said, Brody Lee and Miro were introduced differently than they were in WWE, so they're not really even the same character. Go to the World Heavyweight Champion. Yes, former WWE wrestler Chris Jericho was the first champion, but you have to kind of build value. The second one, Jon Moxley. He was a fan favorite. He was in WWE, but he was booked more serious in AEW than WWE. In WWE, he was a joke as Dean Ambrose. Let's be honest. And now you're dealing with the same thing with Kevin Owens, where they're treating him like they treated Dean Ambrose before he left. I don't understand this. I don't think Kevin Owens deserves this. He's been very entertaining on WWE television. He's probably been one of the best characters that they've had in recent years. But because he has expressed that he is ready to leave WWE, now he's getting destroyed on TV, which I don't know. It's one of those where I'm ready for Vince not to be charged of the main shows. I'm ready for Triple H to be in charge of the main shows. And if this is all just a goal to sell to NBC Universal or Fox or Disney or whoever ends up going to, I don't understand WWE's goal. So one of the things I thought about a few months ago, I went to SeaWorld Orlando. And I thought about, well, if WWE ever wanted to use the licenses to have a theme park, what could they do? Instantly thought of Undertaker having a roller coaster. instantly thought of Doink having a fun house with like mirrors and stuff. WWE does have the rights for a lot of characters that could possibly work in a theme park environment. So the idea of them going to Universal does not seem that far-fetched. Whether or not they do eventually sell, it's neither here nor there. I don't know if it's going to happen, but you can kind of see this happen. Now, they did lose the license for Sting, because I think Sting could be another one that can have, inside the theme park. But they have Hulk Hogan. I believe they still have licenses with Ric Flair. Could be very wrong there. But there's been plenty of other people that could possibly use this for. They can even do a ride of sorts with the Monday Night Wars and kind of have it like, I think it's called The World of Tomorrow in Disney, but the same idea. Either way, I would like to see if that becomes a thing, if they do eventually sell. I don't like to talk about WWE too much, but let's be honest, that's they're in the news. And it's good to see that they've actually given the title to Big E, and they're using Big E to do other promotions. Like he did for the Tyson Fury match, I don't remember who he faced, but Big E did the introduction for the other fighter. I think his name was Deontay something. I'm blanking on his name. But it's good to see that WWE's letting him do that, because that's, to me, something that Big E could possibly do after his run with WWE is over. Moving on to other AEW-related stuff, you have Paul White. Paul White's been getting in the ring, and this is actually one of the things I talked about with Just Incredible, on how they would possibly book Paul White's eventual retirement and how he would put somebody over towards the end and things like that. And if they do eventually go with that, it would be great to see, because he deserves it. Paul White has done so much for the wrestling world, from WCW to WWE. He's a big man that can move pretty well, especially when he was younger. Now he's older, he's definitely slowing down, but overall, he was more limber than he should have been for his size. So it looks like they're continuing to use him in and out of the ring. It's hard to judge what I'm going to say WWE, what AEW is planning to do with them here, but overall, I don't necessarily disagree with how they're using him. It would just, we kind of have to wait and see and figure out what they do from there. The other AEW related thing was Thunder Rosa. I think Thunder Rosa will probably be the next TBS champion. A lot of people are, mentioning probably Ruby Soho, things like that. But I think if you want to start it off strong, you put it on Thunder Rosa. Future champions, if I was to guess, would be it's not Anna Jay, it's Tay Conti. I think he's a future TBS champion. Another future champion would probably be Abaddon. There's somebody else that works dark, and I'm blanking on her name right now. Kira Hogan. Kira Hogan was another one that would be a TBS champion. There's been mentions for Jade Cargill. To me, Jade Cargill will probably be the person that dethrones Britt Baker, if I was to guess. The way they're kind of building her up and her showing her athleticism, I think she's going to be the one that dethrones Britt Baker. Although that meme floating around, whether or not the belt says TBS or Hose, that is hilarious. That is probably one of the funniest things I've seen float around as of late. Moving over to Impact, I like what they're doing with Matt Rewalt and W. Morrissey. I don't like W. Morrissey's name, but I like what they're doing. I think W. Morrissey, a.k.a. Big Cass, should have been a monster in WWE. I didn't like his finisher, that elbow drop. I think he should have been something like a powerbomb. But overall, he is doing well in Impact. He's showing himself to be a monster. He's showing himself to not have any regard for who he's facing and who his opponent is. And that's what he should have been. With Matt Rewalt, he's showing to be a tortured artist, which is something that I like to see.